It's Esper. The jeans low head had arms crossed kid with a black tee.
So I wanted to do like a new little series on my channel of story times of me as a teenager. So let me know if this is something that you guys would be interested in me doing on my channel. I was thinking back to the time that my parents took my bedroom door off. Growing up, my parents were pretty strict with me. I was the only girl in the house. And my older brother was a lot of trouble for my parents. I mean, he was so rebellious. So my parents had already been ready to buckle down with me when I was going to become a teenager. And since I was the only girl in the house, they were even more strict. This is the second time I got caught sneaking out. So the first time I got caught sneaking out, I was 12 years old, and I can tell you guys that story if you guys want to. And I hadn't snuck out for a while. And then at this house that we were living at the time, my room was upstairs, so it was a 2-story house. So at that house I started sneaking out again, and I hadn't been caught any time because I would always go downstairs when my parents were asleep and go out through the living room window. So what happened was, at the time, I'm pretty sure, I want to say I was 15. I'm almost positive I was 15. I wanted to go out to a quinceañera because at the time I was like super into quinceañeras. Like, I love dancing. Still to this day I love dancing. So back then I was like, yes, every quinceañera there was, I had to be there. Like, I had to be there. I couldn't miss it. I remember this time my parents and my little brother were awake downstairs in the living room. So me, being a dumbass, I go downstairs to the living room where my parents and my little brother are at watching TV. And I go, and I try to be like, all sneaky, like I'm just dressed up with perfume and I'm not gonna do nothing. I'm just going to see what they're doing. And I was asking my parents like why they were up so late and this and that. So they were already getting suspicious. First of all, because I'm like with my makeup on, have my hair done, I have a bunch of perfume on, and I'm asking them why they're up so late. So I started to go upstairs and my mom's like, where are you going? I'm like, oh, I don't feel good. I'm going to go to bed already. And she was like, bet. Okay, so I went upstairs and I called one of my friends and I asked her, hey, do you know anybody that's going to go to da-da-da's quince? And she was like, well, I know that Jesus, Jose's brother, is going to go. So Jose was a friend from school and he was her best friend. And I knew Jose, we were friends, we had some of the same classes, and he had his brother Jesus. But me and Jesus, we didn't talk, like we weren't even friends or anything. Like we just had one class together. So I knew he was in my class, but I didn't really talk to him or anything. But he was going to go to the quince, so I was like, can you give me Jesus's number to see if he could give me a ride? And yeah, so she gave me his number. And I have the phone that I called him on. This is a phone I had when I've had this phone since I was 13 years old, and I had it till I was like 16, or I think till 15. I think I had it till I was 15. So this is a phone. I'm really old. I've had this phone for over 10 years. This is the phone I had. So I called Jesus and I was like, hey Jesus, and he was like, yeah, who is this? I was like, hey, it's Claudia from Spanish class. And he was like, okay. It's like, hey, I heard you were gonna go to that quince tonight. You think you could give me a ride? And he was like, well, where do you live? And I was like, oh, I live on by like Highway 2 and this and that. Turns out we didn't live that far from each other. Like, we lived really less than 5 minutes. So he was like, all right, I'll be there for you. So I was like, cool. And anyway, so I gave Jesus my address and he was on his way to my house. Mind you, it wasn't going to take that long for him to get there because we did live close to each other. I hear my mom walking up the stairs coming into my room, so I get under my blankets. And then she was like, what's wrong? Because she knew I was up to something. Like, she knew I was up to something. But I was like, trying to play it off. I was like, nothing, like I don't feel good. I feel kind of sick. I'm going to go to bed, da-da-da. And she knew. So she was like, oh, let me go get you some medicine. I'll be right back. So I knew my mom was going to come right back. I mean, she was just going to go downstairs, get some medicine, and come right back upstairs. But at the moment, I was like, you know what? I don't really give a shit. Like, she's going to come up. I'm not going to be here when she does. Jesus calls me and he's like, hey, I'm outside. I was like, all right, cool. Will you come up to that window that's right at the front of the house? And he was like, all right. So he parks in front of my house. He gets down and I get my heels and then I go out through the window and I'm on the 2nd floor. So I tell Jesus, I'm like, hey, can you help me down? And he was like, this bitch. So he was helping me get down. And and it wasn't like that high up. I mean, maybe I could have jumped, I don't know. But he helps me down from my window, and we get into his car. I was like, all right, we'll drive because I snuck out. So we drive off. And right away my phone starts ringing, so I took out the battery. I was like, fuck that shit, like I'm already out, I have to do what I gotta do, like I cannot miss this quince, I have to be out. You know, like I said, me and Jesus we didn't really know each other. I mean, we knew each other, but we didn't really talk to each other. Like I was friends with his brother, not with Jesus. And yeah, we like went and stuff, and that honestly was like the beginning of our friendship right there, of me and Jesus. Like, you know, and I know it's crazy because I didn't know Jesus or anything, but his brother was really nice. So I was like, well, of course Jesus is gonna be nice because his brother's really nice, because they're twins. So I was like, of course they're both gonna be nice, and they were, luckily. So we went to the quince, we were there. I don't even remember how that night went, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, I think, and it was like time, you know, like it was over and stuff, so we had to go home. And I remember just thinking like, fuck, you know, like I know I've been caught up, because I just know. You know, so we get to my house and I see all the lights were off and stuff, so I was like, alright, cool, it looks like everybody's asleep. So I tell Jesus if he can help me get up on the roof. So he helps me up and stuff, you know, and I'm like opening my window, and I looked into my room and like I seen that like the door was open, and I was like, what the fuck, like the door's open. So you know, I like open it really quietly, my window, and I like jump in, and then I look and my door's gone. Like, so the door wasn't open, the door was completely gone, like they took it off the hinges and everything. And I was like, really, Mom and Dad, really? And yeah, I don't even remember how long they had taken my door for. I called my mom this morning. She said she thinks it was about a month. I don't remember it being that long, but yeah. That was the story of when my parents took my door off. And honestly, I could have planned that out so differently and everything, but like I said, at the time, I didn't really give a shit. So I was like, well, whatever, I'm gonna get caught. It is what it is. I only got caught sneaking out twice, and like I said, the first time I was 12 years old, and this time I was 15. And it was so crazy because they hadn't caught me sneaking out that whole time I was sneaking out in the house, but my mom did tell me years later that the neighbor had told her that he would see me jumping out of the window to go out with, you know, whoever I was going out with. And I was like, fucking neighbor. Yeah, so I do have a lot of stories of me sneaking out and stuff. I know this was a pretty short story, but I don't really remember much about it besides just getting home and my fucking door was gone. Like, my parents were not playing with me no more. They were tired of that shit, even though that was the only second time they had caught me. Yeah, there is this other time, you know, like I said, after that time, me and Jesus became like best fucking friends. We were out all the fucking time, and we were well, Jesus could go out whenever he wanted because he had permission all the time, but with me, I always had to be sneaking out. And there was this other time, it's a really short story. There was the summer of 2009. And me and Jesus liked to be out all the time. Even if we didn't have anything to do anywhere, we would go to McDonald's and be there till like 3 or 4 in the morning. Just because we just wanted to be out. So at this other house that we had moved to, my room was in the basement. So it was a 2-story house. My room was all the way down in the basement. It was like a finished basement with like a shower and everything. And there was like the fire escape. So it was like perfect for me to be sneaking out all of the time. And plus, a train used to pass by right next to the house. So whenever it was like passing by making all this noise, I would just walk out like whatever. So this one time, I called Jesus up and asked him if he could pick me up. We just went out. We didn't have anything to do. So I was like, fuck it, you want to come to my house? We could just hang out and shit. So he was like, great. So at the time, my room was all the way in the basement, and I had my little brother Louis always sleeping in my room because I was scared to sleep by myself. So he would always sleep in my room, and he would get so mad because he'd be like, I get so nervous when you sneak out. What if Mom and Dad come and see that? I'm like, Louis, it's gonna be fine. They're not gonna catch me again. So the room was in the basement, and it would lead out to the backyard, and right in the backyard there was the gate to get out, and I could just walk in and out like whatever. So Jesus parks, and we go down into my room. And Louis was sleeping, like he didn't even hear us coming in or anything. So I got on the computer and Jesus was like, I'm gonna play a trick on Louis, because he already knew my brother by then. So Louis was sleeping. He was like facing towards the wall and the window was behind him, and he was sleeping so good. And Jesus like gets up behind him, like he spoons him, and he tells him, I'm gonna rape you, bitch. And Louis's eyes were like, he was so fucking scared, you guys. Like, he was so scared. He like looked, and I was like sitting right like across from him, and he was like, he got up and he like turned around, he seen it was Jesus, and he was all mad. He was like, bitch, I was gonna get raped so you wouldn't get caught sneaking out. I'm telling you guys, Lewis was the most loyal person that there ever was. Loyal is the best word to explain how Lewis was, and by the fact he was going to get raped so I wouldn't get caught sneaking out, I was like, bruh. It was like so funny. We were laughing so hard because he was so fucking scared, but it was so funny. Like, we just have so many stories of us sneaking out. Like, I don't know, you guys. So if you guys want to hear those stories, let me know. Like I said, they do involve a lot of like ratchetness. They involve a lot of craziness. So if you guys want to hear it, let me know. If not, it's cool.